I use my mouse buttons to move, which means it looks very weird to people who don't move like that. I'm not sure how other people move, but that's the only way I can play this game. Which means I spin my camera quite a lot. But that also means you can cast a spell and quickly move in another direction, right? You keep changing your mouse position around.
That's all you.
Yeah. That's just my. Yeah, that's exactly how I play. Actually, I hold down both mouse buttons at almost all the time. And then I just hold down S when I don't want to move. It's kind of weird. That's how I like to play. The Firestorm glyph thingy does less damage than the air attunement, but air attunement is single target and has a longer cooldown. If you want to get max DPS on the Lord, go ahead and do that. But generally, Firestorm is the best one.
Okay.
So the thing about Ellie is positioning. We have a lot of channel times. Best spell is a really long channel. And sometimes when you're done channeling, as we all know, the enemies aren't there anymore. Yeah.
So what would be the best combo for damage?
So I, of course, start by dropping the static, and then I usually drop Lava Fund because it has a cool short cooldown. Switch to double fire, and if it's possible, drop the meteor shower. It's just because it's a really good skill, but it's also, again, depending on the movement, it might not be the correct thing to do. I use Frostbow. Not everyone likes Frostbow. I like Frostbow.
I'd like to point out, if you're running the Glyph already, especially since she's still practicing or gonna be practicing, I would drop the Frostbow to either Mist Form or the Weaver one.
Frostbow is high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Twist of Fate is a very good skill. It's 2 stun break.
Oh yeah.
And super
so
speed.
Good to use with the sword.
Yeah, it's great. I just, since I got converted to the Frostbow, it's really hard to let go of it.
Yeah.
The strength of the Frostbow is the skill number 4, we all know. It doesn't do as much damage as it used to, but it does it very fast.
It does a mediocre burst with a lot of CCs.
Yeah. So it does. It's just a really good nuke. Most of our damage is actually sustained damage, right? We don't really burst people unless we're playing fish air.
Or if you're full character, because then you do kind of.
Yeah, we have very few
You have Wild Driver and the is it Pyroclastic Blast?
Plasma Blast.
Plasma Blast.
Yeah, that's usually that can chunk people. I've hit people for 13k with that, not being full circle. So that can. But usually, what we do is we control area, and of course we control downies really well. If you see downies, just drop a Lava Fund on them. It's really good. It gives you the stacking 10%, whatever, up to 10%. I'm not sure. Oh,
also keep in mind, if you run the Twist of Fate, if you're getting chased by a thief, for example, right after you use it, if you make a new turn, you can confuse a lot of these because you get super speed while you cast it.
Yeah.
So if you run around forward and then use it and make a 180-degree turn, it will most likely confuse a lot of melee people. Yeah.
Now, a thing I really recommend that it took a while for me to get used to, I think most PvP players already have this, is have a button to stow or keybind to stow your weapon. I have mine on Shift R. That's just how it works for me. Because we have channels.
You don't want to know what I have it on.
Yeah, I mean, keybind is a really personal thing. It's actually kind of fun because, I bet no one in this guild has the exact same cooldown. Not keybinds. That would be really weird, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, because sometimes you don't want to cast your long channels, or you see them moving away, and you realize it's better to have a 4-second cooldown than a 25-second cooldown on Meteor Shower or your Glyph or anything else, right?
Yeah.
Start casting your sword. You don't want to cast it. It's a bad.
It could change in any time.
Yeah. And it's really important with the Meteor Shower because it locks you in place, right? You want to be able to castle it easily because you can press escape, get the same effect. But that's a big movement for me, at least, to find back where I want my hand to be.
Yeah, I have still weapon.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, again,
a lot of
it's the same with
people-
Glyph, right? You don't want to Glyph every single time you cast it. You might need to cancel. So
A lot of people say my key points are really weird. Like, this is like primary things I use in this game.
yeah, I don't even use my 6 button. I have... Oh, that's very similar to mine. I have my
And
heal
then
on...
my like class skills are this
Yeah.
The
basically.
thing is, everyone also has different mouse and.
I'm
keyboards
fast
and
as the
stuff.
wind.
This is the order of my keybinds for my basic skills, which is kind of weird, but I just like it. I have all my attunements on shift.
It's almost identical.
It's almost identical. It's just the order, right?
Yeah, and you have R. I don't have R.
I like R. I have, of course, the Dutch. Dutch is very important. I don't the double press anymore. We forget about those years. Attunement swapping is, of course, where you need experience, because you want to have access to the correct skills at the correct time. When we're done casting our fire spells, where do we go next? Depending on the situation, I personally like to go into Earth to get more areas down where you control space. But say you're inside some enemies, there's some other places you might want to go. So yeah, getting to know all the dual attacks, I guess. That one is actually pretty good. I hardly use it because it's rare for me to go into that attunement. My usual rotation is start in fire air, go fire fire, go fire earth, go earth water, go back to fire earth fire water. That's a lot of AoE attacks, not a lot of single target attacks.
You know, it's actually kind of funny now that you mention your rotation, and
Yeah.
then you mentioned that the PV Weaver is confusing.
Yeah.
Because do you know what PV Weaver rotation is?
I've actually practiced it a bit on the. It's basically you use sword, right? So you
Yeah,
just
it's literally just fire, fire, fire,
And
air, air, air,
That's
fire,
with fresh
fire,
air, right?
fire.
Oh no, that's both to the heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we have a lot of long cooldowns, and a lot of the spells are
Mhm.
actually worth casting. They do. I mean, Eruption, the Earth 2 skill, that's a hard one to land, right? But it's a blast finisher. It's okay. It's just really hard.
What's the super slow one?
What's going on here? Are you guys planning to betray me?
Oh,
I'm not insecure right now. I'm not insecure right now.
the Weaver Uprising is coming.
I am.
fuck.
I'm watching Len.
I'm
teach.
already trying to turn
Maybe.
Mimi into a Weaver guild. Nothing can stop me now.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We have a lot of CC on Weaver, and we really need to utilize that. It's some really good CC. Unsteady ground. Earth 4.
Inside the ground, static fields. What
Yeah.
else?
Shockwave, the Earth 5. is a
Immobile bond
two,
hits.
Yeah, but it's a two-sided sword, or whatever you say, because the thing is, it's a projectile.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and as you might have noticed, there's a lot of projectile reflection going around, and you might just end up doing that thing, and then you just bounce it back and then overlap your entire team for 2 seconds. You don't want to do that. And so I actually tend to not use it, because it's really hard to see in the speed that this game has fights, where there's reflection, where there isn't. It's good when you're flanking, because then you can be pretty sure there's not a reflection field up. But otherwise, I tend to just not take the chance. That's my personal playstyle. You might be better at spotting than I am.
No, I liked what I saw today. I
Yeah.
liked what I saw today. Annie was already doing that in the past as well.
Yeah. It's,
The preemptive. It's a very old school technique from the Koreawi, to be honest.
yeah, and it just works.
You catch them, especially in the versus open mics like we did today. It is.
And in the worst case scenario, you strip the stab for the pull or something else. So, and of course you do use your repositioning ability, but it's okay. Frozen ground is overpowered. I learned this recently. It's like 2 seconds of chill. Yeah, but it lasts for 5 seconds.
And it ticks 2 times, right?
It takes every second for 5 seconds.
Every second.
So
Yeah, also keep in mind if you do use frozen ground, if possible, like try to place it
Yeah.
like in front of your group, because if you do that, every projectile your group does also does extra chill.
and chill is overpowered. Another fun fact: ice fields are quite rare in this game. We don't play a lot of Tempest, so it's not gonna matter a lot. But whenever I play Tempest and I see an ice field, I try to blast it because it gives AoE frost aura, which is awesome, and even dashing through it does that. I rarely, if ever, use Geyser in Danish, because the healing.
Isn't the geyser the short water field
That's the
back in the
short
day?
one.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
call
the
it
small, not
water.
short.
It
Yes.
still heals for quite a lot, despite having almost no healing power. Oh, maybe this is just. Oh wait, we're in PVE right now. All right. Scrap that. It probably heals way less in this world. But healing rain is great because it cleanses.
Yeah.
And if you see a space to cast it, where you might not be casting all your enormous damage spells, be sure to drop it down. It has a long cooldown, and we don't necessarily come back to water before it's up again. Pressure blast, the water air. Let me try that again. Water fire is pretty good. For some reason, it's not a blast finisher. Talk to Anet about that.
I will. Next Monday.
And generally, I would say almost all the dual attacks are good. One that's often missed is the earth water one, Laha. It's just like any other damage field you put down, except that it actually is the only way to give yourself stability. That is fun to know. For some reason, this spell gives stability. It's not in the area; it's just on you.
Yeah, but still might be useful.
Yeah, and it's only for yourself, but it's the only way you have to give yourself stability. So, and generally, giving stability is not your job. It should be just
Also,
in Firebrand.
Who it should be? Who it should not be?
It should just be in
also
Firebrand.
since you're recording this and you'll have this, you have this trait on fire.
Yeah.
When you get more confident with your attunements, and you can keep up with where you're going, which is gonna be your next attunement and so on. What I personally like to do is, before I use the glyph and this, I try to make sure that I get them off around when I double attune to fire, because then you have this buff as well.
Yeah. You usually want to go into double fire whenever you can, when it fits your rotation. The elements of rage duration is only 8 seconds, so you're not gonna have a harvested
Yeah,
uptime.
you mostly want it for
big
meteor and
spell.
if possible for the glyph.
Most of the time, LA is just pressuring area again, but meteor shell can really burst people if they stay in it, of course.
Especially versus downs. There's something.
Oh yeah, it's amazing for that. A spell we haven't talked about, which is a chapter of its own, is Fiery Greatsword. Best spell in the entire game. So
Yeah.
good it has been nerfed in every single.
Listen, I
iteration of it.
never heard any whisper like that when I did something. Like I never heard that. It's so good.
So-
Ever. Except now. Keep going.
So I use Conjurer, and it's a bit greedy. But we want to be greedy with our Fiery Greatsword because it is such a huge damage boost. I'm just gonna link all the spells now before I lose access to it. There we go. So the auto attack is actually decent. If you're inside people, it's very easy to cleave a lot of people with it. And your normal fireball attack is not as easy to hit with. You never want to use Fiery Eruption number 2. Fiery Whirl is amazing. The 1.25 second evade does a lot of damage. If you're against a wall, the fight we had against Meta on the stair underneath the bridge in Bay, like that's a good example. what you want to do is you want to spin into the wall, right?
Yeah.
And PV.
It's-
Like,
yeah,
exactly.
Pretend you're playing like a Citadel Flame, right, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You will kill anything from full health.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think I downed 4 people instantly in that fight or something like that because it just does so much damage.
But wait, what do you do exactly?
I
So
definitely
imagine
fight.
you have like a 90-degree corner, right?
Yeah.
And
Otherwise, you
you
start
have people
drifting.
there stacked, or they just chase you there, and you drop fire crates for. If you have the time, precast 5.
Yeah,
The
this is amazing.
storm on top of the corner,
Mm.
and literally just rush with the skill 3 on the corner.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you're
yeah,
killing it in one spot. And keep in mind, you don't actually need a corner necessarily for this. If you have somebody who's stupid enough to immobilize you when you have a great sword, you can
yeah.
you can do it with immobilize as well.
Because you still cast it and do the damage around you. You just
Yeah.
don't move. So you're essentially turning it into a 360 100 blades in half
Yeah,
the time.
pretty much.
So
Um,
what I do is I
so-
burn through enemy, then if I need.
See, you go in, yeah. So the thing with the whirl, despite how good it is, it moves you, right? So you might end up places where you don't want to be. And that's where lightning flash can be quite good. I try. If I'm greedy enough and think I can get down, I will lightning flash into people and whirl out. Or
Yeah,
like,
I do that all the time.
or you whirl in, and while the duration of the evade is going, you lightning flash to your new destination. It can be back where you came from. It can be somewhere else where you think you can cast more spells. But that's camera movement a lot and anticipation, and it gets better with experience.
Also, this might only benefit Len really, because I know Len might sometimes roam with Tilly. I don't know if
No,
any or you ever
disgusting.
roam.
I roam with Ailey, but I play Condi Tempest, which is
Yeah. Anyway,
disgusting.
so if you ever have Fire Great Sword with you, I'm sure you've noticed there's quite a lot of stealth thieves lately. If you spawn a Fire Great Sword and pick the extra one up, it doesn't say it anywhere on the skill tooltip, but
No.
when you pick a Great Sword up, it actually does this skill, Fiery Eruption, on a random target around you.
Every 6 seconds.
Not
I think
really,
so.
no.
Is it not?
That's what it says it does, but no, it doesn't.
Because I never quite understood it, because it seems very ArenaNet, where it says something.
Yeah, no. It actually doesn't do it every 6 seconds. It does it when you pick it up. So
Alright.
you can technically use that to reveal a thief.
So 2 more skills on the Fiery Greatsword. The Fiery Rush is actually your best single target burst skill to have. The problem is it moves you to the enemy. So if you ever find yourself circling around, or you see someone struggling on the side, Fiery Rush has a good chance to just hit someone for 10k. If they have no toughness, of course.
Yeah.
But you don't want
Do you use it with the target, or do you use it?
it is a targeted skill. So if you don't target anything and you don't have the cursed auto-targeting thingy on, you will just move around, or you'll dash in a line, right? It would be great for getting away, but if you target someone, you will run at them, jump, and swing for a massive amount of damage.
Also, Maeve, I don't know if you have look behind camera option bind to anything. If you use it, you can use skills like this, like behind you,
Yeah.
without really looking there.
Yeah, exactly as what it says.
So, if you're running away from something, so like say you need to get out of AOE, you can literally just run and just yeet it off from your back.
And that works with a lot of spells, right?
Yeah.
Because can't even remember which ones you have face with. Nothing, really.
It works with static, lava font.
Yeah, it works with basically everything except the things that fly out from your body, like, oh, shockwave doesn't work, but like...
I mean, that's kind of funny because...
Yeah, but the things you target, target that one.
Yeah, if you need a target, then it doesn't work. Like, so, for example, if you have skills like... that would just basically
that's
do
a
this
channel
and
anyways.
yeah.
That's actually a pretty good skill, but it's a channel, and it's
It is.
pretty hard to successfully land. Okay,
It also
Fiery
has the
Great Sword.
potential to one-shot thieves.
Fiery Great Sword 5, Firestorm. One of the best skills in the entire game. Why is it so good in Moses World? Because it has a 10 target, meaning I'm not even sure there are any other skills in the game that hits 10 people.
There was, but not anymore.
Yeah, but I'm sure
It's
it's...
gonna get nerfed.
Yeah, probably. So we might enjoy it while we can, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, you say that, but when they did the power nerf, they completely forgot every single conjure weapon.
What about NG? They also forget NG for quite a while, right?
But the engine nerf is planned.
Yeah.
Nerf Scrapper for like hair. It's overpowered.
I saw a dev talking about it.
Yeah.
It's totally planned.
So when do we want to cast Firestorm? Because it has it only has 600 range.
That's a good question. Go on.
So it's really hard. As Kael just said, it's a good question because it's really hard because it lasts quite a while. So
I'm thinking about the second bubble. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're aggressive as fuck. Like today I stopped giving a fuck around 10 to 10 and we just started YOLOing against two groups that were big, right? And the main issue is going to be always like we're using Reapers now, so we have no Shade Spike anymore. So we have, in fact, what we're doing is 3 wells on Reapers, and 1 well is the first spike, and then we use the other 2 for the big kaboom when the YOLO pushes.
And that is, yeah, the good thing about Firestorm is it lasts for quite a while, so enemies pushing into it is its biggest
Exactly.
advantage.
That's what I think it's going to be the moment.
Yeah.
For example, today against Abyss, the times we killed Abyss is easier is when we actually self-bomb.
Yeah.
Abyss was super aggressive, and they were decent, but I noticed that we always got downs every time we bombed them.
The fight where you died initially at the jumping castle,
yeah,
I didn't really want to commit my Fiery Greatsword because it has such a long cooldown. But when you start to see that the fact that they aren't moving, don't really hesitate because it creates a lot of downs really fast. And most of all, it pressures an area like no other spell really does. Except for Meteor Shower, but
I think we had two. We had 2 today, right? 2 Weavers.
Weavers,
You
yeah.
and Annie.
And some people, and again, if we coordinate better, other people can pick up the great swords because it's a pretty hard thing to coordinate though, but it's a lot of extra damage.
It's pretty good when Ellis coordinates, so one puts the first sword. It's just hard to find sometimes, and then it's kind of easier. Because
And
then
also, you can't anticipate necessarily where you're gonna move, right?
You can look for healing regroups. I don't stay a long time. I stay 2 or 3 seconds.
Also, whenever you go to water, like mid-fight, whenever you're gonna swap out of water, like the primary water, I mean, always try to cast this where your tag is, because whenever you swap out, you can drop this, or this if your group doesn't need healing, and it's almost an instant blast. Yeah.
And it's also a good damage spell, it should be said.
Yeah, exactly. It's good damage, and it gives vulnerability.
Yeah. So yeah, Ellie has a lot of things to do. It has a lot of internal cooldowns, Weaver to keep track of. But as with a lot of other Weaver things, you can sort of stick to rotation sometimes and be okay. It's the improvisation that can be quite hard to get the trick off.
About the glyph, it does take always the first attunement, right?
Yes, even if you change mid-cast. For some reason, your Glyph of Elemental Harmony, your heal spell, does not work like this. It is whatever you finish in. And yeah, so this is a renet for you. It's the same with, think of it as the healing Glyph. It is whatever you start casting it in. Okay. Not healing Glyph, I mean revival Glyph.
Yeah, the revival.
Elemental, whatever it's called. Renewal. Yeah, there we go. Sandstorm, the Earth Glyph. You're not terrible. It pulses 11 times over 10 seconds. It's mostly conjure damage, but it blinds 5 targets. That means 5 blinds every 10 every second. If you're fighting in a big stack, like sometimes it happens, that's a lot of damage negated, and it might be actually more worth it to cast that, depending on how it's going.
Also, if you have a lot of downtime, always make sure to cast this on at least some, because it's also good damage when it blinds. It's just the air too.
So
Just to say something about this, so deck will never be, as I made it clear today,
a Weaver build.
a GVG. GVG. Weavers in GVG lose their potential. Let's be honest.
Definitely.
But in War versus World and versus Blob especially, the more area, the more, if it's a target-rich environment, so to speak, I think it has. I think it will shine. It shines. Literally, it's not. I think it shines.
Yeah.
I know. Like, I cannot leave the sustain out, and we do have DPS NGs. What I usually do is, for example, Mori has a Tempest on his party. He will provide the sneak charm. They will provide the cleansing on that party, right? But the idea is, if I have the more entries I have, I will ask for the more weavers I can. Now, Wolfie, I have been asking you to go Reaper, right? Before.
Yeah.
But I have recruited again. I'll be honest. I over-recruited recently because I knew something was going to happen, and I'm counting of losing some people. Obviously, it is how it is. And I did put the offer out there. I think I cannot help him any more than literally. If anyone wants to go, it's fine. But I did recruit NGs and Necros, at least two. Maz is a good Necro from Arc Imperial. So I think you can change to Weaver. I would suggest change to Tempest Weaver. I suggest if you guys have the gear ready on the same character.
Yeah.
So in case we...
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'm asking them to teach me to weaver at least. Like, tonight we were totally over cleansing.
It's
Yeah,
good flexibility to have access to.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know any other DPS class than Ranger, so Ranger against those size. So
The Weaver is a bit hard to learn, but it's really fun. It is very, very fun to play. You always have something to do, and yeah, that's quite fun.
yeah, I tried Scourge, Necro, etc., but I don't like it. And
Scourge
I've
hard to
never played Revenant. I tried to have Food teach me, but
But from a compositional standpoint, I would say still that Weavers are very dependent on the group, because it's quite hard for Weavers sometimes to create initial downs depending on how the movement of the group is going, because they might just move out of your spells. That is the big downside of Weaver, right? Whereas something like a Revenant or NGs are quite secure in the damage, especially if it gets up and close. Weaver damage is always a bit unreliable, but once it gets going and it's downies and stuff like that, it can start forcing the movement quite a lot, and that's when it gets really good. So
Weaver
you can't stack too many Weavers, right? You
No.
need a lot of other initial downs and pressure on the melee.
in 30 people, 3 Weavers is enough.
Yeah, and I've joined a lot of open tags with Mimi, with Sarah playing Weaver and stuff, and it reaches a point where it's just nothing happens because the Weavers might not down anyone because of the movement of the enemies, and then you're stuck with like a ton of damage potential but no actual area to put it down. I remember a fight outside of SM that took 30 minutes when nothing really happened. It was just dancing, and Weavers suck like that, right?
Weaver needs... you guys are basically spectators in the beginning.
Pretty much, yeah.
In the beginning, a Weaver starts doing stuff when
We can still pressure, but it doesn't necessarily do anything.
But keep in mind, especially on a DPS Weaver.
Also, sorry for interrupting.
Because you have to, even when you're quote unquote useless, literally just keep throwing these lava funds everywhere, because it ends when the skill is back up. And every time it ticks, it refreshes the 15-second timer on your damage stacking buff. So as long as you keep hitting things with fire fields, you keep your extra 10% damage.
Yeah, you use lava fund off cooldown essentially. Even if you don't only hit one person with it, it's
literally just throw it somewhere out there. If it hits something, it's a win-win.
Also, since it has no cast time, which the animation sort of does, but the spell doesn't, you can queue up spells quite efficiently with it. If I do like that, oh wait a minute, you can queue up spells quite efficiently. And Kael, sorry I interrupted you.
No worries, I was getting killed by the hobo.
Alright.
No, I'm thinking about you start to you start the fight in the beginning. The big boom needs to come from the Necros bubble and Gravity Well. That's just how it is. It's when the down starts happening is where you guys control the field.
Or if there is a huge huge CC bomb.
Yeah. If they can't move, there's nothing like
they're ready if they can move, basically.
Yeah. I usually just drop, lava funds and other AoE spells to just create zones, force some movement if you can, which is very hard.
That's it.
You're not necessarily going to do damage, but you are going to deny space. Space they could move through, but usually when people see the red circles, they want to move out of it. You do have some very high impact initial skills, like the unsteady ground, right? We all been lined, maybe except Kael, because he's always in the front. But we've all tried to being lined behind, and not we just don't get to play the game anymore, right? Because we get out of the stab range, we don't get any cleanses. So that's
one thing. One thing that needs to do better, which is the
line quite often.
Also, if you're playing DPS with VR, your literally your best friend is the most basic thing ever. Imagine if me and Annie are the enemy blob. You always want to drop your damage in front of us a little bit when you're moving.
Yeah.
Because then when they're running through, they'll get all the possible damage out of it, instead of, the AI is just getting left behind. It is like the most basic thing, but it just adds so much damage if you just place them in front.
So a thing I haven't talked about, what is the thing you hear me complain about the most? Actually, I'm not sure it's the most, but it's retaliation.
Yeah.
It's a thing you might not have.
Weaver weren't so used up till now.
Yeah, so it's the thing you might not have to care about a lot on the other classes, especially if you play support, right? On Weaver you do, especially because you have lots of channels that will put you outside of your attack. The attack moves around as it should. You might get left behind, and as soon as your meteor shower starts connecting with the enemies, you will take 200 damage or so per hit. Also, complain about being yoinked, but you should stop yoinking me then.
No, I see you getting yoinked, and I do see you. For example,
yeah, that's
today,
okay. I play outside the party quite a lot because I try to sell.
I see you getting yoinked, but I'm not going to put the group in a vulnerable position for you. What I usually do is either two things: you go down and miss to us, you get yoinked out, wink to us, or the other thing is you get down, you get yoinked, and we put the holy strikes on you.
Yeah, I usually just say it so it's in the consciousness. I don't expect you to move towards me necessarily. It's just information.
Also, retaliation is the reason why you sometimes see me joke about the DPS fever rotation being this.
Yes. The thing is, because the thing is, you will actually kill yourself faster than enemies will. They won't get to you, but they still. And Weavers are one of the unique classes that can actually down themselves without ever getting hit by the enemy in a normal fight.
Yes.
This is why I run Marauder. also because it's a bit more damage you can take. It's a bit greedy, but we'll talk about that later when Kael isn't listening.
Uh-huh.
But also, almost all your spells are AoE. You will hit 5 targets on most spells, which means you will get a lot of retaliation.
You need a party. I usually sacrifice you guys when I don't have any chance, because theoretically you do have a more...
But if you're doing a lot of like circling around the enemies, trying to force movements from the side and such, remember to keep an eye on your health, because suddenly it can get quite low and then random stray projectile from some sort of non-Weaver class will kill you, and that'll be quite sad.
Also, whenever you do get a party, like literally any party, you literally want to hop on your Revenant's back and never leave.
Yeah, such great. Yeah, being inside the tag as a Weaver is it's interesting. It's a bit different gameplay, right, than I usually do. I tend to be quite outside and force movement, but being inside, you can hit a lot of more impactful spells because you'll be hitting the targets that actually will go down from the damage. But you die quite fast still from getting hit, not from retaliation this time, but from actual damage. So it's a bit different.
I think the way we play will benefit you just because of one thing.
Yeah.
Theoretically, the partnership would benefit you, right? Theoretically.
Sure.
But I think that going aggressive on the enemy gives you guys... You guys kind of slip by. Does this make any sense? You guys can start your work of being a bit invisible to the enemy.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So, sorry, just because we're on their face and they're gonna focus on the thing that is on their face, and you guys can not be on their face. Can be around them. Can be...
last time we had inside our keep.
Well, it's kind of 50-50. You can be on their face, but only if you know that you have at least one stun break or like safety skill available. Because like if you can use one of them while you are stacked with your own group, even if it's literally their whole bomb there, unless it's a rev spike, you can just auto-stun it with like the help of your crew. But you can't stand there for long, so you kind of just want to get there, possibly get some fury, extra might, whatever, drop all the like close combat skills such as plasma blast, for example, and then just get out. And if you need to get out easily, these are your most like easy safety escape.
Sword too, while you're at it.
Any of those, or FGS3.
Yeah. So Weaver, very fun.
I want more.
Has a lot. Keep in mind,
You
but
upload
very
the
fun to
video.
play. What, Annie?
Ask Maeve to upload the video so we can save it.
Oh sure.
I have a question. With
Oh.
Weaver, sorry, Brew.
Ah,
Did you get any of my Aegis? Because I was watching your bar and I don't think you got any of my Aegis.
well, the thing is, I'm very, very selfish in
Thunder,
myself.
that's like it really depends on the Weaver.
Yeah.
So if you have Weaver like Glenn, you shouldn't worry if he has the ages because he does play a lot out of the group.
Fair enough.
But then there is some Weavers who might go a bit YOLO and actually just stick with the deck a lot more.
Yeah.
And then if you have a Weaver that does stack with the group, it becomes a lot more important to make sure that the Weaver gets the ages.
Also, if you hear Greatsword is up, the Weaver is more likely to be close to
Yes.
Yeah.
Weaver
And if-
through the enemy where you are.
And if we do Greatsword, giving us stab is amazing because we'll be inside the enemy's quite a lot.
Okay.
But generally, it's the way the Weavers play and
Yeah.
define how.
Basically, Thunder, you can think about it this way: like if it's a small fight, it might be more relevant try to take care that the Weaver will also get the Aegis. But if it's like, say, Duck versus two huge guilds or decent sized guilds, then you shouldn't really worry about it because the Weaver is just simply not gonna be able to stack there with the others.
So
It's
okay,
just not physically possible, even if you're running Marauder.
then
Yeah.
next raid, get in my party, and then I want to try some.
The biggest demand from Weavers, really from the Guardian, is not getting lined in the initial walking around.
Pre-stab, you mean?
Yeah, pre-stabbing. From there, the Guardian does
And
not
stun breaking if
And
you're
stun breaking in general,
running
right?
in with the group.
But that's
that,
normal
that comes
Guardian
back to the
play.
point of personal play, really.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
fair enough.
And the Guardian, or Firebrand, excuse me, doesn't heal as much as it used to do, right? So. And
Can
we-
anyone send 10 gold while we're talking? Sorry.
And again, one of the biggest problems for the Weaver is the retaliate.
Yeah, but the retaliation, it's a give and take, because if you're gonna have that amount of retaliation, there's a high chance you're gonna also creating a
It's
lot of
great to see your health go down, but it's also very scary.
But the rally mechanic, because you know me, sometimes, a lot of times I don't res, but I focus on the damage on the down, so the rally mechanic starts.
Yeah, and I play for that. When I see you starting to push, I will commit, like the Fire Great Sword, I will put down the 5, so it hits for that area for quite a while, and I'll go spin inside the enemies. So if I go down, I will come back up, hit everyone.
I mean, I've had moments where I've dropped like pretty much all of my AoE as a Weaver on top of the enemy, and I have died 6 times and died to death penalty
Same.
from literally retaliation alone.
You can kill yourself completely as a Weaver.
Yeah, you
Gone
don't
now.
even need to get cleaved or finished.
Yeah. You can down yourself from retail, get up from the kill, and then down from retail again. It's
4 more times.
But that means we're winning, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not.
Yeah, but it's just like there is no other class that cannot shift that.
And that's because the duration of some of the spells, right? This lasts for 10 seconds. This other
Yeah.
one lasts for 9, 10 seconds. Again,
And
that's
it's not even that alone. It's the fact that literally everything you have is AoE. You're not just taking retail damage, you're taking retail damage from 5 people every time.
I don't think I have a lot of more things to say on the subject of the gear. That's depending on the group
What
and stuff.
sigils do you have on your staffs?
So I use these two. I have a stacking staff that is quite usual to play 2 staffs.
Oh yeah, that is a very good point. So,
You need to do.
Maeve, if you're playing staff, make sure to get another one.
Yeah.
I have plenty, don't worry. I just need
Because
It's quite large.
my account.
Because
Can't
for
switch
whatever reason, Anet made it that if you get 25 bloodlust, for example, on a staff feeling, and then you swap to another staff that has, say, force and impact,
You
the
keep the
funny
stack.
thing is that you don't lose your bloodlust stacks at all.
So it's a 253 power, essentially.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change the way you play, because it's the same skills. But that is why I have very different looking staff. So I
Yeah.
have a visual indicator on which staff
Well,
I am on.
It's the same on Tempest, like the two
Exactly.
focuses.
Yeah. Or I run dagger because I'm greedy for the blasts, but essentially you only use the weapon you're on, and you still get the stacking bonus.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
NG2.
Wait, you run Dagger on Tempest?
Dagger, and dagger focus. So I started Earth,
Okay.
and I blast with the 2 blurs, 5/4 skills, 2 free blast, and then I go back to focus.
Yeah.
I run Scholar Runes because Kael gave me the Scholar Runes.
Did I?
Fun fact, I can actually notice a damage difference. So it's definitely worth it. You don't necessarily care about the 5% from the 90% health bonus or whatever. You won't reach that, because that's like 3 hits and you're below 90%. Like not getting hit, but again hitting 3 enemies. But it's still a lot of just raw damage stats. Do we have any interesting trivia concerning the traits? Might is amazing on Weaver because of the
Okay,
overwhelming.
Stop. Matte time.
Oh, Matt is here.
Come on, Matt. I did a good segue. Come on.
Hello.
Hello.
and
Warriors.
Wait. Let's do this again. Say it again. When?
Alright, time to talk about might.
And about the 24 stacks we can give as a warrior.
Woo, what a
In one instant cast skill. On a, we have 2 charges of it on a 5-second cooldown between each charge, and a 25-second cooldown on each of them.
There's lots of min-maxing going on with the build, the gear, get the exact amount of crit chance you want and stuff like that. Legendary armor is quite nice. Doesn't solve all the problems though. But overall,
I think Scholar is a must, right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
After trying it, it does a lot of difference in the damage.
I just feel like the min-maxing on Weaver is kind of like, unless everyone plays absolutely perfectly, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Unlike Tempest when you play in GVGs, where it matters more. But it's still good to have like.
You can do it if you want to. It won't change how you play. I mean, there's lots of small things you can do with Weaver as well. If you want to. It's very small things that might not ever matter. Like if you go into Earth, you will actually gain more health, stuff like that, and you can swap some stats around. But
Maybe we should do a follow-up in 2 weeks when maybe have played
Yeah.
a bit.
sure,
I haven't said I will play it all the time, just when it's needed.
5 hours a day practice. Go.
Yeah. This is...